So let's talk about honesty and integrity. Most people will believe that they have honesty and integrity. It's something that people don't feel comfortable with being challenged with. However, it is important to break honesty and integrity down to points that can be measured and understood so that we can do them consistency. And as a part of dependability, consistent honesty and consistent integrity, regardless of the situation, is a necessity. Now, we have the notion, there's an old saying that says, be truthful even if it be against yourself. That's a heck of a thing to do, actually. Not so easy. Instead of starting with honesty, let's start with integrity. Integrity has to do with how you carry yourself and the basic means and principles by which you have for yourself. Work ethic is key to integrity. Work ethic is essentially the amount of work you're willing to put in, your ability to put in the stamina. I guess that's probably even a better word, stamina, in order to consistently work when you know something needs to be done. It might not have anything to do specifically with a specific task or anything else. It's just simply a person's desire to get up and get things done. At QOSIL, we admire people who have a get up and go attitude, a strong work ethic, and a desire to get work done as a natural function of who they are. Judgment, integrity, and judgment. This is also something that's a little bit shaky. Judgment, when you consider it to be impaired or not impaired, doesn't have to do with whether or not you made the best choices. It has to do with whether or not you made the best choices with the information that was given to you at the time. And that the choice that you made was something that considered the outcomes of other people, the outcomes of the organization, above a simple personal gain. Typically, when we think about good judgment and bad judgment, we compare that down to who benefits from the choices that you've made. If you are the holistic and sole benefactor at the cost of the company and your fellow employees, contractors, vendors, other coworkers, then that judgment can be considered to be impaired. But when you make decisions that can also benefit you, but have a positive outcome for the overall good of the organization and those who work with and for it, then this is what we consider integrity in judgment. Now, another very key thing about integrity is taking responsibility. At QOSIL, I cannot, I cannot overstate what it means to take responsibility for the things that you do. We openly admit that things might not always be right. You might not always do things exactly the way they need to be. But what we will judge you on is whether or not you take responsibility for things that were in your power to change. Many times, people believe in organizations that not taking responsibility will save them from any kind of negative blowback or negative reaction that can happen because of something that happened that was less than ideal. At QOSIL, we are exactly the opposite. When a person, when an employee, a vendor, when anyone, a customer, a partner, takes responsibility for the things that were in their care and their control, we see that as a core element of an integral person. And it is seen in a positive way as long as it's followed up with two other things. Take responsibility, tell us how it won't happen again, and tell us what you did to fix it. That's a lot more significant than dodging the bullet or ignoring what was happening by claiming that you had nothing to do with it. And last of integrity, and we've covered this in other ways, is just the overall respect you have for your colleagues. That's shown in many of the other ways that we actually discussed in the past and other sections. But just to reiterate, we do see how people treat other people as a form of integrity. I'll share a story with you. Recently, there was someone who interviewed for QOSIL, no names. We went out, and as I normally do, we took them out to eat. Simple outing, very comfortable, relaxed situation, very casual. During the conversation, the person, or I should say the interviewee, actually began to boss around the wait staff. Now, I believe that this individual was doing it because they wanted to be seen as significant by someone they wanted to be their boss. Know that we do not. We see it the other way around. When someone does not respect other people, when someone does not treat those people the way they would like to be treated, we see it as a negative element of integrity. And it is a for sure way to cease your involvement with QOSIL. Always respect everyone we come in contact to, from the oldest of people to the youngest of people, to the person working the simplest job to the most complex, from the person who works on the street, in the trash can, all the way to the person who works inside of an office. We want to respect people at every level and give them common courtesy. These are things that we associate with integrity. Now, that leads us to the second part of it, honesty. Now, honesty is at the core of dependability. Why? Because just like taking responsibility for what you said, honesty is required in order for you to be a responsible person. The space where honesty is typically challenged the most in our environment is in two key areas. One has to do with expenses and finance. Listen, those people, those vendors, those partners, those employees, those contractors that embody the things that we cover in this onboarding exercise, in this training program around our golden standards at QOSIL and our excellent family, we will always find ways to work with you. We will extend our work with you. And the more we work with you and the more you do things in that way, the more we will grow and the greater we have to compensate everyone for their work. There is never a need to price gouge if you're a vendor, to try to cut us low if you're a customer, to try to unfairly hide the true amount of your earnings if you're a partner, or to overstate expenses or overcharge for your services if you're a contractor or an employee. These will always be seen as negative. Whatever you gain from them momentarily will cost you your relationship with QOSIL completely. It is a intolerable measure that on the financial side, we do anything less than ensure that we pay the appropriate price and that you control costs based on their realistic costs as much as possible. When we have fair dealings with each other around finances, it shows a level of honesty that increases the work and people make more. If you have a simple mathematics problem, if something costs $100 and I make 10%, but you buy it from me 10 times, I make $100. But if it costs $100 and the experience is so bad that you don't buy again and you made 30%, all you made was 30 bucks. It always makes sense to practice honesty. The second space where honesty always comes into play is around whether or not work is done on time. Always. Always be honest with what's hindering your work or with your ability to get it done quicker. It is much more imperative and valuable to our organization that you are honest about deadlines, realistic about when you can turn something around. I know, there are a set of people out there who would like for you to tell them you can do something overnight even though you can't. That's not QOSIL. We want to know that when you say you're going to do something, it's going to be done exactly when you say. And if anything comes inside the way, you tell us as soon as possible. Honesty and integrity are qualities that cannot be undermined or undermentioned or understated when it comes to your ability to be dependable for QOSIL and those you work with in our organization.